सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरिः ओम। नमः श्री यतिराजाय विवेकानंद सूरये सच्चित्सुखस्वरूपाय स्वामिने तापहारिणे। Swamiji's Karma Yoga. We are studying chapter 7. This is 18th class. So far in this chapter 7, freedom, Swamiji has given us some 4-5 main ideas. So first, starting with law of causation, Swamiji gave the background to what is law and what is causation, and that law of causation itself, law of causation of or law of association of ideas, of which law of causation is only one aspect or only one part of it. Then we saw Swamiji with that background, Swamiji introduced the topic free will, whether we have free will or not, and concluded saying free will is in the absolute sense we do not have, but we have relative freedom or relative free will. So next idea which Swamiji gave is the freedom is not possible as long as we are in the time space causation, within the time space causation. So whole universe is subject to the time space causation, these three. This is a little bit philosophical concept, but nevertheless when Swamiji has to introduce or discuss the topic of freedom, so this has to be explained. So within as long as any loka or anybody is within these three constructs of time, space and causation, there is no freedom, strictly speaking. So that being the case, so whether it is Prithvi Loka or Swarga or any other lokas, as long as within this relative universe, so there is no freedom possible in the absolute sense. Okay? So idea is, the implication is we have to seek for freedom beyond this. So it doesn't mean that go out of the universe, but it is a mental thing, right? In the mind, this time space causation itself is within the mind, right? So that has to be given up there. And what is the process? So all these yogas are the various paths to seek that freedom or mukti or God realization or jnana. So all these things. Now, so next main point introduced by Swamiji here is that, so what is the way? There are two paths to give up this thing, that to attain the non-attachment or Anasakti. In Sanskrit, what we call Anasakti. Here in English, Swamiji uses the word non-attachment for Anasakti. So whole of Karma Yoga, we see this term being used, attachment and non-attachment. So Asakti, Anasakti, we usually use these words in Sanskrit, right? So the two paths Swamiji introduced, that is Neti Neti Marga, which is part of the Jnana Yoga, Vedantic in term, that is a little difficult or more difficult compared to the other paths which are based on the karma, the karma margas, right? That there one doesn't have to give up universe, work, etc. But through the work, through experience, person gets understands the things, and then having experienced the objects of the universe, of the world, they give up. And so step by step the soul and the mind understands and then experiences and then gives up, or that charm or the asakti is given up by that goes step by step, and it's a slow process compared to, but that is the natural way. Majority, most of the people go through these things. So these two paths Swamiji explained, that is two paths broadly speaking for attaining the non-attachment or Anasakti. So next Swamiji introduced, so here, so then briefly Swamiji talks about what is Karma Yoga. In this para, the gist of Karma Yoga Swamiji has given. Though we studied this thing, I just read it out briefly. So this actually, this para gives in brief the main point, the main gist of Karma Yoga itself, right? So this is what is Karma Yoga. I just read out. The knowledge of the secret of work. We see that the whole universe is working. For what? For salvation, for liberty. From the atom to the highest being, working for the one end, liberty for the mind, for the body, for the spirit. All things are always trying to get freedom, flying away from bondage. The sun, the moon, the earth, the planets are all are trying to fly away from bondage. The centrifugal and the centripetal forces of nature are indeed typical of our universe. Instead of being knocked about in this universe and after long delay and thrashing, getting to know things as they are, we learn from Karma Yoga the secret of work, the method of work, the organizing power of work. So, 2 points here, that in the universe everything is going seeking freedom, whether it is even the insentient objects, even the universe, the objects, the matter also being compound, it has to go back to its natural state. We discussed this thing, these points in the earlier class. So similarly, people, the living beings as well, are tending towards freedom only, though it is unconscious and slow. But the life process is, the life current is going in that direction, but it is very, very slow. So all are seeking liberty only for mind and body and spirit as well. So all these things, so all these movements are all tending towards that. So this is the idea. Now, so here you see this last sentence, Swamiji says, instead of being knocked about in this universe, that means, getting the pleasant and unpleasant experiences through all our works, our feelings, our dealings in the day-to-day life, trying and getting to know things as they are. We learn from Karma Yoga the secret of work, the method of work, and the organizing power of work. A vast mass of energy may be spent in vain, that is, you may be just wasted if we do not know how to utilize it. Karma Yoga makes a science of work. You learn by it how best to utilize all the workings of this world. So, work is inevitable. So, Karma Yoga teaches us how to work, so that through that work, rather than simply letting it go, so we learn how to come out of the bondage. So work can be done, but if we do it in a right attitude, with a proper understanding, in the right spirit, so it can enable us to transcend the bondage itself and then come out of it. So, and thus overcome the misery, sorrow, dukkha, all these things, right? So this is the the purpose and the goal of Karma Yoga, to teach how better to work with a proper understanding, so as to avoid these troubles and once for all raise above them, right? Work is inevitable, it must be so, but we should work to the highest purpose. Work is inevitable. So in the Gita also we see, even for the Jivana Yatra, work is unavoidable. So when that is the case, work with the right attitude, so that so we attain the highest, not just the ordinary thing. Otherwise what happens? We go on doing the routine works with the usual thing, goes on, punarapi jananam, puranapi maranam. So there is no end. So hardly anything people gain by it, other than the regular the needs of the life, etc. But there is a different attitude, different understanding, as taught in the Shastra, with when we we carry on our works with that understanding, it can enable us to transcend, rise above. So that is the rise above the bondage, rise above the sorrows, miseries of the usual life. So that is the point here. Karma Yoga makes us admit that this world is a world of 5 minutes. That means a transient one, ashashvata. That it is a something we have to pass through, and that freedom is not here, but it is only to be found beyond. To find the way out of the bondages of the world, we have to go through it slowly and surely. So, as I said, gradually, as we go on working, but with the attitude of Anasakti. In the beginning stages, it is just like as a matter of duty, rather than with a rather than with an attitude of gain, or let's say enjoyment, or and there are many other things, even at least something which is of purposeful work, that at least has some purpose, if not for somebody, if not for some, if either for family or oneself, there is some purpose. In the usual life, people do so many things which doesn't have any meaning at all, is it not? In the name of entertainment, relaxation or hobby, so many things they go on doing, and they do not have any purpose or utility for either for themselves or for anybody, society or family, anyone. So there are many things how where the time is spent which doesn't have much use. Now, so those things will be the beginning. Then comes the idea of duty. That so do it as a duty rather than with the idea of gain or some other self-centered idea. Then comes the more broader ideas, and that is unselfishness, or doing it for the or the sacrifice one's own benefit or the one's own idea for the larger good, for either for family or for the society or for the nation, like that. Those are higher ideas are taken up, and so that's how we reach higher and higher ideas of work and work and living. So that's this how we slowly progress towards the higher ideals and then towards the goal, right? So the Swamiji says here, slowly we go through it, slowly and surely. There may be those exceptional person about whom I just spoke, who can just stand aside and give up the world, as a snake casts off its skin and stands aside and looks at it. There are no doubt these exceptional beings, but the rest of mankind has to go through slowly, go slowly through the world of work. Karma Yoga shows the process, the secret and the method of doing it to the best advantage. So till here we have studied. So in this paragraph, in a short compass, Swamiji has given a brief, almost the gist of the Karma Yoga, right? So we continue the text. So what does it say? What does Karma Yoga say? Work incessantly, but give up all attachment to work. Do not identify yourself with anything. Hold your mind free. All this that you see, the pains and the miseries, are but the necessary conditions of this world. Poverty and wealth and happiness are but momentary. They do not belong to our real nature at all. So here two things. Work incessantly, but do not have attachment to work. Do not have Asakti. So now, though it is a generic term, again and again we hear this word being repeated: be unattached, non-attached, or do not have desire, etc. But now, in different contexts, what it means, so that through life and etc., to thinking, through manana, so many things we have to understand. Though it is just said in one word, right? And that too, it means differently for a person at different levels of evolution, different. So these three things has to be these three factors which decide what is one's right course of action at a given time and with respect to a given situation, right? The desha, kala, patra. Yeah? So these three, this equation has to be, or this triplet has to be remembered. In the Gita also we here study this thing, the time, place and person. What is the time, to whom we are dealing with, and what is the context. So desha can also mean the context, or the place also it can mean. So to whom, so now these three decide the dharma or the right course of action. Now, so this so-called this non-attachment to work, so it has to be considered in that context, strictly speaking. Okay. Now next important idea is here, pains and all this that you see, the pains and the miseries, are but the necessary conditions of this world. Poverty, so this necessary conditions of this world. Now you see, before I say this, in the Mayer Katha, Sharadama is telling, Gospel of Holy Mother, that if one takes on a body, one has to pay the tax. That is how she put it. So she means to say one has to bear the afflictions, disease and some of the miseries. Even though one is pure, highly spiritually elevated, still one has to bear a part of it. probably that is not because of one's own karma, but it is because the pure person has taken the miseries of the other people. So that usually with the spiritually great people, those who are born for the good of the people with a spiritual mission or a divine mission, they suffer or they go through the sorrow either to set an example for others, or they take on the misery, the karma of others, and then they suffer. So whatever the case may be, as long as, so if one takes a body, one has to have some share of these miseries, troubles, which are usually attended with the attendant on the bodily existence. Now, so similarly, Swamiji says here, these are the pains, miseries, troubles are necessary conditions of this world. So, no, so what is the point now? That anyway everyone knows it. So why what is the point in telling this thing? Is it not? So, but there is a difference. You see, when we know that these are necessary conditions, then we won't be carried away by them. We will not be overwhelmed by them, right? We know, yes, this comes and goes. Then that gives a strength to forbear them. And having thought about these and then understood and then having this spiritual training and background, it gives them such a strength that they won't be affected so much at all. It comes and then goes, so that they don't actually, so like just like so many small things which we experience in the daily life. So these are otherwise which could be overwhelming or sorrowful, would be just forborne, or probably they won't even come to the attention at all. So the person rises to such level of maturity and strength, right? So these are necessary conditions of this world. So then what is the point? So everyone goes through, has to experience. Then why do you become miserable, right? That is the implication, right? So when now there is one more also important thing. When we have a knowledge, that very knowledge removes the dukkha or the sorrow or the suffering, any of these things. So this is something to note, this thing. When we become miserable or shock or some of these things happen when we do not have the knowledge of the thing which is coming. Something happened unexpected. We see, no, unexpectedly I was caught. Surprise it was. Shock. Because the person did not expect. If it was expected or known, this is usual thing to come. Let us say something which is already going on. Every other now and then it happens. Do we experience such a thing? That is such a dukkha or misery? No. Because it is a known thing. And probably we have gone through also earlier. It does not. I myself, we have heard people, unfortunately during Corona, those who actually went through troubled times, etc. Those who are going through first time, they expressed it. It is a classical example. But those who are already, because 2 years it was there, we heard people, though some people went through the trouble, I mean going to hospital again and again, or probably being in a critical condition. So those who are going first time, they were in so much fear was there. What will happen? Because some people are, it is becoming very critical and even beyond also for some people, whether what will be our state. But some people have gone through already, etc. For them it is not so big thing. That I just quoted because many people experience this thing during just in the recent past. But even otherwise, let us say somebody who is going for a heart surgery or somebody, etc. So much fear will be there because some of these critical surgeries, other things, the success rate is less, right? Is it not? So somebody who's gone through some of these tough things again and again. So for them, then also I am used to it. They say this time they use these things, though it is it not? See, so I want to draw this thing that when we have the knowledge of a thing, it is no more a trouble to us. It is no more a challenge to us. It will not overwhelm us. This is the thing. That is, see, again the knowledge, the the power of knowledge, what it is. So this is something to note. Now, so this is the implication here. These are the necessary condition of this world. When that is the case, having known that, that itself will remove so much of sorrow, and then whatever the attended trouble, pain with these miseries, pains, etc. Right? Even so, next point: poverty, wealth, happiness are but momentary. They are just coming and going. Having that thing, having known this thing, one has to raise above them. Don't be dependent. It is so much so that some people, when they, even in Swamiji himself says, of course, Swamiji quotes some classical example. Somebody, I think. Probably in some other chapter, not in Karma Yoga, elsewhere it says there was somebody who when Swamiji was lecturing in US, recent past somebody has committed a suicide. Why? He has become poor by a few $1,000,000, but he already has many more millions of dollars. So, in translated to Indian context, somebody has lost 1 crore or 2 crores of rupees, but he already still he has many crores of rupees in his account. So that is his relative idea, right? So it's so relative. So at the point there was what Swamiji intending meaning was that he was so much identified with the wealth that little of change in his portion meant that his existence was in question. He has lost almost his life like that. So, and as so much overwhelming it was that he went mad and then committed suicide. Right? So we see, having based our whole life, our existence, our everything on some of these things which are external to us. Let's say it may be poverty, it may be property, it may be wealth, it may be, let's say, belongings, it may be, let's say, some people name, fame, prestige, some of these things. They go to any extent to, which when these things are, they go away, they lose them, right? So even there are even more commonly occurring thing when the relatives or when near one dear ones unfortunately when they meet with premature death, or even it need not be even death, it may be any accident. So we see how much overwhelmed people become. So these are quite common in the society which we have seen. So the teaching here is these things. So here I think in the past one class we mentioned in the Yaksha Prashna, I just want to draw the parallel. In the Yaksha Prashna, one of the question put by the Dharmaraja, the Lord of Death, to Yudhishthira is, what is the most wonderful thing in the life? So Yudhishthira's answer is very, very illuminating here. He says, every day we see people dying here and there, everywhere we hear at least. But still one does not even think, my day also may come sometime, right? One day it may come, but it just goes on. The unconscious idea is, I will not die. At least even this thought doesn't come usually. We don't bother. It goes on like that. So the implication, as Swamiji meant, is that we won't die, or the Yudhishthira means is we won't die. So that's what. So this is the most wonderful thing. Such a wonder it is that it is such a truth, such a unfallible truth that and we see also somebody's time has come, somebody is passing away either prematurely or the age is over and then they are meeting their end. So we see it is a known truth, but what should have been the case is we should understand, be thoughtful, and then attend to the main things or the essential things or whatever it is. So each tradition and the culture has its own teachings to, how do they think about it or handle these things, life and death and then life things. Now, so this is the thing. People are so, they take these things so much they take it for granted, right? So most wonderful thing, he says, the Yudhishthira. So that is the thing. Poverty, wealth, happiness, even death. These are all, poverty, wealth, happiness, these are momentary. But still, people base their existence, their importance, whole life on those things. They do not belong to our real nature at all. So when our nature is far beyond misery and happiness, beyond every object of the senses, everything which is outside the outside the mind, beyond the imagination, and yet we must go on working all the time. Misery comes through attachment, not through work. As soon as we identify ourselves with the work we do, we feel miserable. But if we do not identify ourselves with it, we do not feel that misery. So here one important thing is that teaching, misery comes through attachment and not through work. So we have studied, but Swamiji, I think it's quoting from Gita, this thing. In his own way it is quoting that, to put it in the other way, Anasakti is the basis of happiness and peace, right? Anasakti or non-attachment is the basis of happiness and peace. And of course, so in the next para we'll see this is the basis of all the yogas also. The non-attachment is the basis of all the yogas. So Swamiji says in the next paragraph, non-attachment or Anasakti is the basis of all yogas. So which we see. So here Anasakti is the basis of peace and happiness, or put it in the other way, misery comes because of asakti is there, attachment is there, and not because we undertake work. Work itself is not the source of misery or dukkha, but it is attachment, the asakti for something. Through work we have asakti for something. It may be name, fame, it may be something else, it may be from fruits of action in one way or the other. So again, context has to be seen, how one has to conduct. Though it is, because the desire for fruits of action are there, so that is evil. That is true from a very high standpoint. But each person has to see how one has to, what one's approach should be, right? Now, continuing. If a beautiful picture belonging to another is burnt, a man doesn't generally become miserable. But when his own picture is burnt, how miserable he feels. Why? Both were beautiful pictures, perhaps copies of the same original. But in one case, very much more misery is felt than in the other. It is because in one case, he identifies himself with the picture and not in the other. This I and mine causes the whole misery. So, here one example is taken. There are two pictures. Some painting, let us say, one belongs to us and one doesn't belong. Probably it is the replica of the same picture. So there is kept. If my picture is burnt, I feel miserable. Generally speaking, usually speaking, if somebody else's picture, it is the sorrow is not so much. We say, oh, so sad it is felt. That much only, a passing sympathy or empathy, whatever. That no, nothing beyond. And if the other person is probably is a stranger, we simply think, and then so just one thought and then goes forward. And if it is somebody related to us and we have some empathy or we feel a little, and if the picture is our own, so probably understandable, right? Right? So what is the difference here? This identification is there. In one, see, so 3-4 stages we have taken. There is one stranger, right? So one thought, if the person is an artist, because so he values the pictures, etc., so he feels celebrating. If the person is an arty person, something is burning. It simply thinks and then goes forward. It doesn't even bother that much. So next person is an artist, so he feels it's a nice painting, so but so it somehow is caught fire or somebody has burnt it. So let's say the other picture belong to somebody whom we know. Then we feel little more. Array, see, our friend's picture is being burnt, etc. So we feel little more. Let's say if it is burnt in our own, somebody's in our own family, a little more. Because see, in all these, there is a degree of involvement or the attachment or I-ness, that relation or the identification is more, and when we come to one's own, it is highest there, depending on, of course, the person. So because this identification is there, that I-ness and myness, I and mine causes the whole misery. With the sense of possession comes selfishness, and selfishness brings on misery. Every act of selfishness or thought of selfishness makes us attached to something, and immediately we are made slaves. So here the sense of possession comes, with the sense of possession comes selfishness, and selfishness brings on misery. Sense of possession. We usually, generally speaking, when we take on something, or when let's say somebody gives us something, we buy something, we take up something under this thing, so it is identified, it is mine. Mentally we get that association is there usually. Now depending on how much important to oneself the thing is, so much identification automatically it comes, generally, right? Now when this idea has come, this belongs to me, it is mine. So now depending on the person, so what is the next thing? It is one's own. Now let's say somebody wants it. Will he give? No, again, depending on the importance, etc., on the person, he may give or he may not give. So let us take in a family, somebody is holding something, some object. If the brother or the sister asks it, depending on, let's say, okay, at least our brother or sister something, so you may give. So again, you see how much, because he has some identification with them also, so it is within his own circle, right? You see how this yeah, this network of this high and mine is, right? And similarly, how these levels of identification with either oneself, one's own family, one's own relatives and friends, and then the nearby people, the neighborhood, and then one's own, let us say, these levels of gradation of identification. So this is how the Vyavahara goes. Okay, all right, that's how the society has been built up. No problem, but one should not stop there. That is the idea. So have to grow to higher ideals. That idea of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is built on this thing. Do not stay, just be stuck up with your own small circle. Come up and take up the higher ideals, and then the highest ideal is the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, where is the whole earth. Of course, Vasudha is used, but otherwise, usually Vedanta says, the Upanishad teachings, all the Shastra teachings, the whole universe. Because the soul, the spirit, the Atman is one, and the whole universe is one speck on that. So whole is just a one. At the highest level, universe is one thought in the mind of the God. In the mind, in the cosmic mind, is whole universe is a one thought after all. Right now, so one has to identify, feel that oneness, that samatva, ekatvam anupashyati in the Ishavasya we hear. So that oneness is the goal. Identify, and that it is the truth is oneness, or the universe is one. At the underlying, at the background, everything is one, made up of one, interlinked with one. It's one only. But why do we still separate? This is me and that is not me. This is mine, that is not mine. So this separation brings on all the separation, and then all the calculations start from it, and association, this selfishness and not, this belongs to me and I should keep it, that is not mine, and or probably on the opposite of it, I hate it, or it doesn't belong to me, so I dislike it, or many things will come. So these are the fundamental level, or the basic level. When taken to in the ordinary dealings, so many things it will mean, right? So this gradation is fine in the society, but one has to go on to higher and then broader ideas of I-ness and minus, and then go on, and then so come to the highest thing. That is the teaching, that is the thing. But now, so this with act of selfishness, with every act of selfishness or thought of selfishness makes us attached to that thing. So we say this selfishness is like this is mine, or I keep it to mine. So that what happens? That association goes on becoming stronger, and then it increases our attachment, and in turn that means more selfishness, and it will be even devastating going further when it is taken further. Immediate, and so because we are attached to these external things, so we have dependent on it, and then so what are the implications? So once freedom is lost, so once self is in other things, the external things, so once freedom is lost to that degree, is it not? So this is how it goes on. When a person who is not dependent, or once in any way dependent, I am using the other word, the more familiar word. So when this raga is there, attachment or asakti, so the one self is in these things, mental thing, it is a association, mental imagination. So all these things, mental concepts, right? So when they are gone, so the person will feel miserable, is it not? So that's how one is made a slave of these external things in one way or the other. So to gain the freedom, so one has to learn learn the truth, or come to the truth that the oneself is, the real nature is not dependent on these things. One real nature is elsewhere, which is luminous, which is Atman, but not in these things which are external. They come and go, etc. So with all this karma yoga and other yogas, one has to learn how to handle life, how to handle things, how to live, and then still, and what to look for, how to carry on our day-to-day life. This is the thing, right? And having known the goal, how do we actually navigate our lives in this world of duty and actions, right? So, continuing, each wave in the chitta that says I and mine immediately puts a chain round us and makes us slaves. And the more we say I and mine, the more slavery grows, the more misery increases. Therefore, Karma Yoga tells us to enjoy the beauty of all the pictures in the world, but not to identify ourselves with any of them. Never say mine. Whenever we say a thing is mine, misery will immediately come. So, again, so each wave in the chitta, that is mind, that says I and mine, immediately puts a chain, that means bondage around us and makes us slaves. So when there is bondage, so that definitely bondage, because there is bondage, so we are bound to it, and so that means we are slave to that object. So in that sense, the slavery comes, right? Now this chitta, so Swamiji says each wave that is thought in the mind that says I and mine immediately puts a bondage. So this I and mine is that I is I-ness or ahankara in the Sanskrit we know, which is a more familiar term, and mine, that is minus or mamakara in the Sanskrit we see. This is I am stout, I am such and such an officer, I am the son of so and so, and then I am the descendant in such a great lineage. So these are the notions of I, which are based on, the I is based on these notions. So in the Vedanta, this is analysis comes, so that of course in the Jnana Marga, and so that we dissociate from some such notions. That is the idea. So this I is based on like this thing. The lower idea of I, the relative notion of oneself is like this, is it not? I am the son of so and so, I belong to such a great family, or I am so and so caste. So various things are there. I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, these are things, right? And so next is these are the I things, the notions of I, ahankara, the mamakara. This is I have this much wealth, I am so and so, I own that, I own this is mine. So these aham and mama, so based on these two types of notions, so we build up our own ecosystem in this relative world, and then so our attachment goes on, and then so many things goes on in the thing, earning, taking things, and things go, things come, we try for more, so many things goes on. It will become a complicated network of things. And so in that karma, and so many feelings, so many raga, dvesha, so many things, victories, defeats, revenges, so many things goes on, and then it is a intricate maze of karma, and then karma, and then the previous karma coming, so many things will be happening, and no one knows, and the person will not know where the life is leading to. So right now, so these so in the Vedanta, they analyze the life and thoughts at this fundamental level, that is those which are based on I and those which based on mine, ahankara and mamakara, and then try to dissociate. This is the Jnana Marga. In the the basic ideas of that is applicable, I mean can be made use, so that we understand, and then how to overcome these relative notions. Therefore, Karma Yoga tells us to enjoy the beauty of the picture, but do not identify oneself with any of them. When we say mine, I want that, so then starts, then the calculation starts, is it not? So do not even say my child. So here now Swamiji talks about now even this brings into more closer things in life, that is, so do not even say my child in your mind. Possess the child, but do not say mine. If you do, then will come the misery. Do not say my house, do not say my body. The whole difficulty is there. So these, of course, these ideas here has to be considered from a very high standpoint, not in the usual sense. So usually now here Swamiji said, in the mind that association, that dependency or the raga shouldn't be there. Of course, the child is one's own. If one's own child is one's own, but that attachment should not be there. But this usually difficult thing for the ordinary person, but the person who is trained in spirituality understands what it means, right? In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, we hear Sri Ramakrishna telling, somebody asked him, how do we look upon our family people, my family children, etc. Now, so for that, Sri Ramakrishna answers, see, like, have the attitude of the nurse. So when a nurse is taking care of children, let us say in a hospital or in a home, as a home employed, somebody is employed as a nurse in the home, she feeds them, takes care of them just like a mother or an aunt, and gives the love also, and then the child feels, so free and then happy, and then, but in the heart of heart, the nurse knows the child doesn't belong to her, but she is just doing her duty, and then of course with good feelings giving all the care and then love whatever the child requires. This attitude, but at a notice she is ready to, she can leave the home and then go elsewhere also. So this, but this is a higher attitude, but still a person who wants to practice, who is trained in spiritual teachings, they know also what it means, right? So this has to be, of course, this is a mental process. Swamiji himself says, see, do not, in your own mind, do not say that this child is mine. What Swamiji means is, of course, the dependency or the raga, attachment. Possess the child, but do not say mine. So, like that. So, the body is neither yours, nor mine, nor anybody's, but we are free, standing as witness. The bodies are coming and going by the laws of nature, but we are free, standing as witness. So, yeah, this is the next thought. So far, Swamiji first talked about some external thing, then he came to family, that is children, etc. Now, next, the next level of attachment is the body. So, that has been taken. Now, so what is the attitude? The body is neither yours, nor mine, nor anybody's. Usually, the body actually, the matter, it is a matter, right? Because the soul is residing in the body. The Sukshma Sharira, which is made of the senses, or the Indriyas, Karmendriya and Jnanendriya, and the Manas, or the mind, Chitta, etc., the four factors, etc., they make up the Sukshma Sharira, or the subtle body. So, with the pranas, of course. So, when the mind with the pranas and Indriyas is residing, the subtle body is residing in the gross body, then the gross body is animated and it lives. It is living, functioning, growing, etc. That aging, etc. goes on. So, but in the Vedanta, the physical body is part of the material Jagat. So, it taken birth from the body and it grows and then decays. But it is a physical matter. It is not even fine matter, which is, the mind is made up of fine matter. Swamiji says, and Vedanta says, the mind is a fine matter, very, very fine, Sukshma. But this is a gross, the body is made up of gross matter. We eat food, grains, etc. And then the body grows, right? So, it's made up of body. And it is part of the Prakriti. The Atma, and then the Sukshma Sharira, which is mind, etc. in the middle, and then the gross, which is part of the gross Jagat, or the gross universe. Now, so the body is neither yours, nor mine, nor anybody's. Usually, in the Brihadaranyaka, we have a mantra where Yajnavalkya is saying, the soul, the Atman, or the Jivatman, discards one body and takes up the next to work out its karma and in its journey, right? So, so basically, and there another mantra comes that the Prakriti prepares the body which is suitable for working out its karma. So, it comes like that. So, the body is part of the Prakriti or the material Jagat. So, with that background, Swamiji says, body is neither yours nor mine, but anybody's. Strictly speaking, of course, body is, ordinarily speaking, it is one's. So, but in the philosophical sense, in the truth, to speak the truth from the truest standpoint, it belongs to the nature, Prakriti, and the Jivatma in its transmigratory existence is residing in it. So, next you see, the body is no more free than a picture or a wall. The bodies are coming and going by the laws of nature, but we are standing, we are free and standing as witness. So, by the laws of nature, the Prakriti, bodies are coming and going. So many souls have to live, and that means each has their own, each soul, each living being has his own karma, his own or her own karma to, so on. They require a certain such and such a body, and so the Prakriti actually prepares such bodies, and they come into being, and then it's actually elsewhere. Swamiji gives a simile, the picture of it, like it's like that children play in the yatra, there will be chairs sitting, and then the cycling goes on, and then we get into, and then we make one round or partial round, we get out, and but the circle goes on, etc. Some uses exactly this thing, merry-go-round or something, I think. Merry-go-round, I think it is. So just like that, there are various types of bodies are being born, and whenever the time is and the right body is available, the souls inhabit it. So takes birth, rides on it, it experiences its own karma, and then probably puts on more karma, and the fresh karma does, and then it gets out and then goes. So it's like the parallel streams, whenever the bodies are coming and going. So by laws of nature, bodies are coming and going, and we are free, standing as witness. We, of course, hear the Atma, not the Sukshma Sharira. So this body is no more free than a picture or a wall. Why should we be attached to it so much? If somebody paints a picture, it does it and passes on. Do not project the tentacle of selfishness, I must possess it. As soon as that is projected, misery will begin. So, the next point Swamiji says, this body is no more free than a picture or a wall. That means it is not free. It's just as, let's say, this picture, this wall is there, this pillar is there, something which is part of the gross jagat, the sthula jagat, just like any other object within which is a non-living object, just like that also, which they are just there. You cannot even raise them. Such a topic as freedom, non-freedom from them. They are just there. They're part. They're bound. Right? They're even bound. We cannot say. We do not say that the insentient matter. Is it not? Just like that body also. It has some composition has happened, and then it is in this form. It grows because of the life principle, and then the soul, and then afterwards it decays, right? So that's all. It is no more free than a wall or a tree or a picture. Sorry. Why should we be attached to so much to it? Idea is, when it is it just part of the gross jagat, when it is just a gross matter, why one should be attached to this higher idea. So as soon as this selfish idea comes that I possess it, it is mine, all these things, so the misery begins. So Karma Yoga says, first destroy the tendency to project this tentacle of selfishness, and when you have the power of checking it, hold it in and do not allow the mind to get into the ways of selfishness. So Karma Yoga teaches to destroy this tendency of selfishness, and when we have the power of checking it, when you attain some power of sanyama, yama niyama, then do not relax, hold it in, otherwise again it will be back. That is the meaning. So that's the implication here. Do not allow, when you have the power to check it, hold it in and do not allow the mind to get into the ways of selfishness again. So usually this is something which happens in the spiritual life. Swamiji implies, Swamiji implying that thing, that usually after progressing somewhat in Sayama, that is Yama and Niyama, in self-control, it often happens, or sometimes happens, people relax. And then, so what happens? Mind will be again, because one is not yet so pure and raised beyond the clutches of the senses and the tendencies. So, because the vasana or the desire, samskara is not fully gone, so if you relax again, you will be within no time one will be back in the original position. So that is the idea. So do not allow it to get into the ways of selfishness again. Then you may go out into the world and work as much as you can. Mix everywhere. Go where you please. You will never be contaminated with evil. There is the lotus leaf in the water. The water cannot touch and adhere to it. So will you be in the world. This is called vairagya, dispassion or non-attachment. So once somebody attains this shama, Shama is used in the Advaita Vedanta, so or let's say Yama Niyama in the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, or let's say simply Sanyama when we say, or the self-control. Once somebody has attained to something, then one enjoys this Shama Sukha, so called the Ananda or the happiness arising from self-control. Life will be simple for the person. It doesn't have to deal with so many things. They have the one thing to note is in spiritual progress. For everyone, even at the basic stages, one will see the life simplifying. I do not mean simplifying means it is happiness. Of course, in a happiness, in a one way, it will be felt. But life will be simple. Life will not be complicated. Will not be so many. There is a so-called this uncertainty. All these, so much of tension and worries, misery, which is attendant on all these tension and worries and uncertainties, these will lessen, and so that means so much of peace, and life will become simpler and simpler as one progresses. This one can experience even in the basic stages itself, even in the beginning stages itself. So Swamiji says, when this Shama is attained, this self-control, so one can go as and mix wherever one pleases and will not be contaminated with the evil, because one person has learnt where to how to deal with things, how to do work also, in what attitude, and he knows where to enter and where to exit. Elsewhere Swamiji says, see, the trouble is we know how to take up some work, etc., that is attach ourselves, but we do not know how to detach ourselves when the work is done. So we remain getting attached. Is it not? This in the regular ordinary life we see, we enter something, let's say some job, or let's say some even temporary, we have gone on something on maybe a picnic or some tour somewhere, we are there, and then see, usually it doesn't happen, but there are some cases when it is felt, so you get attached to them, and then you see you do not want to come away from them. So we take up some things, let us say some social work even also. There, after some time, you see the person has unknowingly has become part of it, and then so one doesn't want to, probably the time has come to move on. So doesn't want to come away. So we have heard these things, and these are quite natural also. Usually we see such things. So Swamiji says, we attach that, we enter into things, we take up things, but we do not know how to put aside things, and that power we have not developed. That has to be developed. So then, when that is there, we can go and take up any work, mix with anybody, but we will not be contaminated with evil. That means we will not incur new attachments which will bring us more further misery. And Swamiji uses this example or the simile of the lotus leaf in the water. We know the leaf, when we put water, it will just stay like the drop itself. It doesn't even flatten. It stays, and then you pour out, and then just there is not the little wetness also on the leaf. So just like that, and Padma Patra Mivambasa, that in the Gita, elsewhere also this example is shown, is used many times. And this is called Vairagya, dispassion or non-attachment. Vairagya or Viraga or the opposite of Raga. These are it is derived. Dispassion, that is opposite of passion or non-attachment. Passion is Vasana, Raga, non-attachment, Anasakti. I believe I have told you that without non-attachment there cannot be any kind of yoga. Non-attachment is the basis of all the yogas. So this is some important statement to note here. Non-attachment or Anasakti, Vairagya. Vairagya is actually used traditionally in the spiritual literature. Vairagya is used at the little higher stage. It means a little bit higher thing. But Anasakti, let us say, that somebody can start even in the regular life also. People will be, those who are matured and those who know about life, etc., they would be having some level of Anasakti. They know where they know it. So this Anasakti is the basis of all the yogas. Now, all the yogas, Swamiji has classified the yogas into mainly 4 yogas, that is the yoga of concentration of Raja Yoga, the Karma Yoga, the yoga of work, action, Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion, and then Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, etc. So, in all of them, Anasakti, if one is not having Anasakti in the things of the world and things of so many things of the life, how will oneself give attention or the more time towards God, let us say, if it is Bhakti Yoga. And in Jnana Yoga, that is the person who doesn't have Anasakti or Vairagya cannot even enter the door of the Jnana Yoga, let alone speak anything about it. So the Raja Yoga, mind concentration, mental concentration, unless somebody, the person has a little bit of Anasakti, mind will be turbulent. I mean, let alone, that is why, so the concentration or the dhyana, dharana, pratyahara, dharana are given at the end. First stages are the moral virtues and purification of the mind at the gross level. So they are taught in the Vedantic this thing. First Karma Yoga, that means go on doing the good works without any selfish desire, and that's how purify the mind to some extent. The grosser issues should be worked out. So grosser attachments. Now, so that's how Anasakti or non-attachment is the basis of all the yogas. Is a common thing and a basic need. The man who gives up living in houses, wearing fine clothes and eating good food and goes into the desert may be a most attached person. His only possession, his own body, may become everything to him. And so he lives, and as he lives, he will be simply struggling for the sake of his body. So, non-attachment doesn't mean anything that we do in relation to our external body. It is all in the mind. The binding link of I and mine is in the mind. So, the further explanation of this thing, that this non-attachment or Anasakti is something, is nothing to do with the external things. Somebody may give up, let us say, our Swami Ranganathanji used to popularly quote often this thing, that a beggar who doesn't have anything, but a few torn out cloth and probably torn bag or something he wears, but he may be clinging to it with so much. But somebody like Buddha, or let's say even King Ashoka towards his end, who had taken up Buddhism and then grown in that. So, like, let us take Buddha. So he was a king, he gave up everything, but he had everything which he had, but he gave up. See the difference, is it not? It is having, and even we have the ministers, kings, and we were working, were doing everything, but they were not attached. Of course, many examples are given, and even of the latest things we hear. Of course, one of the Saint Janardana Swami, or there was one. He was in Maharashtra. Some, I think, 3 centuries or so ago. He was a minister, commander, not minister. Sorry, army commander in one of the small kingdom there. But he was a sage. And Sant Eknath, when he goes in search of his guru and then meets him and then learns from him the yoga, etc. And he was a master of many yogas, Janardana Swami. So he was a commander, Senadipati. You will see, I just wanted to give an example which is not very ancient. 3 centuries ago. Many will be there, even now. But I just quoting one popular example like that. Is it not? There are many people who have sacrificed their lives during freedom movement itself. Is it not? Netaji, we have. Why should we go so far? What he wanted? Did he work all these, so much sacrifice he did, so much, not just sacrifice, so much struggle he took up, so much challenge. What for? For any of his thing? No, it was the country, it was the people. And was it for only for people? No, even now people, some prime ministers, etc., presidents will be doing for their country. But is it just? Is it dharma? That question also comes. But in his case, it was dharma. Yes, he was trying at the when people are in suppression, when people are in difficulty, when people did not have proper governance from a government. So he wanted to work against that government and get independence for the people. See, is it not a greatest example? Is it not? Right? So these examples we have many. So, but but they are doing biggest, I mean, the challenges and biggest projects, I mean, so to use such big works they have taken up. But where is the self-interest? Is there a self-interest? No. Is it not? See, these are the examples of karma yogis. So the man living in the giving up houses, etc., all these things, and living in the forest, so he may have all the attachment in the mind. So attachment is in the mind, or no attachment, everything is the mind. So you will be having all these. So you'll but still be still just his own body may be everything to him. That is the idea. But so next comes, so the point is, all these things are in the mind. Non-attachment does not mean anything that we may do in relation to our external body. It is all in the mind. The binding link of I and mine, ahankara and mamakara, is in the mind. If we have not this link with the body and with the things of the world, with the things of the senses, we are not attached. We are non-attached. Wherever and whatever we may be, right? A man may be on a throne and perfectly non-attached. Another may be in the rags, that is a beggar, still very much attached. So this is the thing. We'll continue in the next class. Okay? Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat.